Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pipeline. I am here. We're back. It's been a crazy week. We meant to do it Wednesday and then Thursday and not Friday, but we're here Saturday. Welcome back. I'm so excited. I've been hyped all week to talk about all these things this week. I am joined once again by our amazing co-host, Toxic Taz. Taz, how's it going? How are you today?
I am doing well, man. Thank you. It's been a crazy week. It's been a busy week, and we thought that we were going to be doing this a lot earlier, but then we just completely forgot when My Adventures of Superman actually aired because it was a complete mystery to everybody, apparently.
And we have once again joining us, Darth Bunyan. How's it going, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Had a nice chill week actually. So everybody's had a nice busy week. I've been really chill, relaxing. The sun's been crazy over here.
Sure.
So I mean, it's been really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean it does feel like a much chiller week than it has been these last couple weeks because like there hasn't been as many episodes, there hasn't been these groundbreaking castings and news. You know, a couple of little stuff obviously, but a much chiller. I mean, it was a holiday over in our neck of the woods as well. Taz, did you blow up any fireworks?
No, I just heard a lot of fireworks. Yeah, it sounded like a war zone out there.
I hate fireworks so much, man. I wish we could just mute them and then they're good. Like they can enjoy them. You don't have to be doing them at like 4 inside the morning. I think that's a little ridiculous. But yeah, let's get things started today. A little bit of a shorter stream today. Taj reacts in the comments. Superman, yes, new Superman show. Before we get started, though, I did get, for anyone who hasn't been up to date, like I think regular Darren has been out of it for a little bit. He's been off somewhere, and we actually got a postcard from him recently. And he said he wasn't going to come back until we hit 1 million. And this is the photo he sent us. So it looks like he's really buffing up. He's really having a good time. But I hope he comes back soon because I don't want to do this job forever. I have a life. But we'll see. We'll see.
Man, the real question is real Darren going to be the body double for the new Superman in live action?
Maybe, but I think that might be too much of a stretch. Like I don't know if David could get to that level yet. He's just too strong and handsome. So I don't know. Let's jump into our first news story today. This first story might be up to your alley, Taz. This is kind of your neck of the woods. So Star Wars. So James Mango said his canceled Boba Fett movie was borderline rated R. Now I don't know how you guys feel. I liked the show as a very casual Star Wars fan. Like I thought it was okay. I enjoyed the back half more than the first half for sure, for obvious reasons. Would you have liked to have seen a rated R Boba Fett movie?
I definitely would have much rather seen a movie than the series that we got. I think, sadly, Boba Fett was handled a lot better during The Mandalorian Season 2 than he was in his own series. There was a lot that was said even by Tamora Morrison himself. He was like, hey, this doesn't feel like the Boba Fett that I remember. He's kind of... The whole thing that everybody was always talking about was Boba Fett ruling with respect and all that type of stuff. It's like... Thinking back to, say, the original trilogy and even thinking back to how Boba Fett was in Mando Season 2 and in that Mando Season 2 post-credit scene and everything like that, it kind of felt like they Disneyfied him ever so slightly, if that's a proper way to say it. Like, I think that there were still some really, really good elements in that series. It was great to just have Boba Fett back, but I would say a more like hardcore Boba Fett movie kind of living up again to his portrayal in the original trilogy, living up to what a lot of people remember from Legends, I think would have been a lot more of a hit than the series was, just kind of like trying to put itself into the established Mandoverse.
Can I ask a question about that? How would you have done it? Would you have done it more as a prequel movie, or would you have still had him survive the Sarlacc pit, have the back to tanks, and then still get like the face reveals?
I mean, if you remember back to, there was like a fan film kind of thing released a while back where it was basically him like emerging from the Sarlacc pit and everything like that. I would have loved to have had the movie maybe start like that, but then maybe kind of like time jump to, where we kind of are in the timeline at that point where the series is taking place, but just have him do more like actual like bounty hunter things rather than kind of trying to, rule over Tatooine, that type of thing. I feel like, just seeing him do more classic Boba Fett activities, I feel like would have been the better option, and maybe still give us some more flashbacks, maybe fill in some gaps of where we didn't see him during the original trilogy and everything like that. I think that would be fun as well. But I feel like starting out, just having him come out of the Sarlacc pit and everything would have been kind of like my perfect starting point, at least.
I gotta say, I have a definite bias because one of my responses was going to be, well, we kind of got that with Mando season 1 before he met the child, right? And then we kind of also get that in the group of the other Mandalorians, right? But then if you handed me 6 different movies about 6 different Jedi, I wouldn't be complaining. So there's a definite bias on my behalf.
Right.
So yes, I'm down. I'm down for the Boba Fett.
Yes.
I will just say, like, as kind of like an outsider, and again, I think Marvel kind of falls into this too. I think should have been a movie over a show. I don't think there was enough there for a show, at least the story they're telling. I say the same thing for like Obi-Wan as well. I think that should have been a movie full-heartedly. I don't know why it wasn't. I think that's probably like a like $1 billion project right there. So I don't know why they didn't.
What's crazy is I love both of these shows. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find things to love in both of them. Like I'm somebody who can really like find something to love out of every Star Wars project. Like I might not be the biggest fan of the sequel trilogy. I might not be the biggest fan of like certain things here or there, but I can find elements in everything to enjoy, because at the end of the day, I'm a massive Star Wars fan, and just, you slap Star Wars on anything and I'll just eat it up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on. So a new Suicide Squad movie is happening, or I guess animated or like anime movie. So now anime isn't my side of the world. Like I don't know much about anime, right? That's not my expertise, I guess. But are we excited for this project? Have you guys seen the like trailer for it at all, or are we hyped for this, I guess?
Like I wasn't expecting it. I saw the trailer just like randomly one day, and I was like, oh, they're making an actual like Suicide Squad anime. I think it's probably going to end up being from the same studio that did like Batman Ninja and stuff like that. So I think if it's, at that same quality, it's going to be great. The anime style looks really good here. I'm not like a massive anime fan. Like my brother has definitely gotten more into that, and he's trying to like pull me over to that as well. But I'm definitely a big fan of just that animation style, and kind of like anything that's anime inspired even.
Sure.
Just kind of like that art style is very cool to me.
Yeah, no, I'm I'm not sure if I'm gonna check it out or not. I don't know. Like I feel very like intimidated to step into the anime world just a little bit, because I've never watched much of it, so I don't really know kind of like the like standards of it, what to expect, kind of going into that fan base, I guess.
3 Dubs is a good person to talk to, because he'll start
absolutely
off a 3 good series and then start you in nice and slow.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I'm at a point where I got so much like to watch already, like almost bringing in a new medium. I don't know how smart that is, because then I'll have a whole nother stuff, like a whole nother side of this like sphere to dive into, I guess. But no, I mean, it looks cool. Like we have Harley, we have Joker, we have Waller as well. So maybe if it's talked up enough, maybe we'll watch it. I also heard they dropped the trailer for Justice League Ruby Part 2. I didn't watch Part 1. I just saw like things on the internet about it. I saw a lot of people were not happy with what we did with Batman. But like, I feel like I can't properly talk about that because I don't know that world. I don't know the context of what everyone was talking about with Batman. So we'll see. All right. Yeah, this is another quick third, I guess. So I really want to talk about this one. Now, this one this is a big one. So I don't know if you guys have heard or have been following this news at all, but The Flash Escape the Midnight Circus it's this Apple Podcast series that they announced a couple weeks ago. And like when I first heard this, I thought, oh, this is maybe next year or something like that. This drops in 2 days. This comes out this week, July 10th, apparently. I thought we had time. No, it comes out like this week. So I think by itself, this is a very innocent project. It's just this Flash podcast fun thing. But we had confirmation this week. We had this little trailer that apparently it's a sequel to the Flash movie. It takes place, 2 years after the events of the film. And this is going to be a follow-up to that version of Barry. And I think that's kind of insanely huge. I think that's massive because we are getting a follow-up to the Flash movie. Something that I didn't think we'd get in 15 years. Not like, now we're getting it this week. Taz, how are you feeling? How do you feel that we're getting a Flash sequel?
It sounds like Flashpoint 2 Electric Boogaloo, if you ask me. Like they're just like randomly doing a second Flashpoint. But and from my understanding, Barry's going to lose his powers, be in this like weird game show thing, and I'm not sure if this was a joke or not, but Iris is apparently the villain.
Not a joke.
I heard that.
Yeah. I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a chance. If it's free, I don't know. Is it free, or do you have to like subscribe to like Apple Podcast Plus or something?
No. I looked it up on my phone and it seemed free for me, but I also have an Apple like phone, so I don't know.
Okay.
Like,
It
I don't know
wants
how
to
that
be
works.
free. It really wants to be free, honestly.
I just don't get how Barry could time travel again, like to this extent, right? Like,
especially 2 years into his journey, like hasn't he? An extra 2 years into the journey, hasn't he learned his lesson at this point?
And it's not even for something important. Like him and Iris broke up. They broke up. That's it. He saw the multiverse break due to what he did. He saw trillions upon trillions of lives almost get destroyed. And he's like, oh, love sucks right now. I'm going to just fix things. That, I have a hard time believing that that's the same Barry that we saw at the end of the movie. And I know he went back and he saved his dad and stuff like that. But I have a really hard time thinking that he would time travel again for something so stupid.
So my question is how long was this in production, right? Obviously, it doesn't take super duper long, I imagine, to make a podcast like this, right? But there needs to be something behind it. There, as been discussed, there was 3 options of how the Flash movie could have ended. I myself would have, like I said, had it finish with him running off, right? So we saw nothing of the changes. I wouldn't have finished on the joke, but the joke is better than finishing off on Keaton or Sasha, because that's who we would have assumed we were finishing and getting with. You know what I mean? So the idea is that the movie's unfinished. Did they have that joke knowing that this could come in and fill the void and then answer some questions that the fans would have had? Do you know what I mean? Or is this like an emergency plaster where they left so many holes in cheese that they're like, right, quick, let's just throw some emergency band-aids on and try and make some people happy? I don't know.
I really do think this wasn't supposed to be connected. But maybe they're like, this is flopping bad. We need more promotion. So like maybe they're like, here's this follow-up story. If you like this, go see our movie like now. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's in a weird spot. Like I feel like we're supposed to believe that they were kind of in production at the same time, and from that little trailer that they released as well, the actor that's voicing Barry seems to be doing like somewhat of like an impression of Ezra Miller's Barry as well, to just kind of like keep that connected and everything. So I would like to think that they were in production at the same time, and just the performance of the movie has nothing to do with this. This was just kind of like a tie-in thing instead of doing like a tie-in comic or a tie-in game or something. It's like, all right, tie-in audio drama. But also the fact that it is kind of like a podcast, and I'm sure it doesn't take too much to kind of get this production going. I'm sure they're just adding a few sound effects and everything like that. I wonder if this was just kind of, fast-tracked into being a thing just to kind of try to recover from the subpar movie performance.
But like you said, 2 years in, right? Like that, I obviously from Keaton's explanation, everything gets affected all at once, right?
Right.
So even if it is 2 years later, by this point of the podcast, we should already be in the Gods and Monsters universe.
Yeah.
Which once again makes me think that this timeline that we saw at the end of the Flash movie, Barry just flashpointed himself out of the main timeline, and we're just off in our own separate Elseworlds thing.
Yeah. No, I because I wonder if we're going to, I doubt it, but I wonder if we'll get any like tidbits of like George Clooney Batman or something. Like if we'll get any references to this world, because I never expected, even again, like maybe not for at least 10, 15 years to go back here and explore more of this universe. And I guess we're not still, right? Because we're erasing it again, I assume. So...
But this is what annoys me like a little bit, and obviously I'm too early for the expectations. But James Gunn coming from Marvel, like you've got Loki, you've got WandaVision, you've got Multiverse of Madness, Ant-Man and Quantumania. You've got all of those explaining small key bits of the mechanics of how the universe and multiverse is working. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't take much for just snippets of this is what we're going for. This is how we're going to get there. Something. Do you know what I mean? And especially because of how we're going in with the podcast, this could easily do it. Yeah. Very easily. One of the only criticism I have or have heard from the movie is how do we get from here to where we are? Because it makes no sense. So I'm really hoping. And the other thing as well is James Gunn had some input in the Flash movie.
Maybe like at the very end. Like I think maybe he had input on choosing which ending we saw. Like they filmed these different possible endings and they're like, hey, James Gunn, which ending fits the best into your new DCU? And I think the ending that we got, again, while it feels like it's not connected to anything, I almost feel like that's kind of the point, was to just keep this movie as separate as they possibly can from this new DC universe and just say, hey, it's its own thing, it's its own timeline. We're starting completely fresh. Blue Beetle will be in that new DC universe timeline. And once we get to Superman Legacy, then we're going to really start fleshing out this new world, but almost just don't even worry about the old DCEU timeline. That's kind of how I'm viewing it, at least at the moment, until we're told otherwise.
I mean, I could dig it, but I'm kind of like, because we could have had it all, you know?
Yeah,
we could have had it all. Been really happy. And then he could have just been all to the haters, you know? So.
Here's Ronnie. According to that trailer, it is canon. It takes place 2 years after the movie, which again is insane to me. I don't understand why they could have just had this new universe in their little podcast world, which would be sick. I would actually love like a whole like cinematic universe and just like audio readings. Like that could be kind of fun. I do want to give a shout out to Max Greenfield, which you were talking about how he was doing a like Ezra impression, and he does sound like Ezra Miller, but that's just his character from the New Girl. Like that's just
okay.
him.
I wasn't familiar with the actor. I just like I thought they sounded very similar. I was like, oh, he's doing kind of like an impression just to kind of like make it connected.
I was thinking like once this happened, I was like, if you needed another live action Ezra, like if you wanted to recast him, he would be a great actor because I think he does an amazing job. And I do think there is something really fun, you know, just for like me personally, like New Girl has become one of my favorite shows recently. So it's very fun to see Smith play like the Flash. I think that's a lot of fun. But I bet he'll do a great job. I really do. I think he fits at least this version of the Flash very well. So I'm curious to see. Apparently he fights Captain Cold at some point. So that's cool, I guess. Captain Cold's like DCU canon, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe I'll throw it on just in the background one day while I'm, grabbing screenshots for a video or doing cardio or something.
Will Friedle does podcasts, so I'm sure he'd be open to doing a Batman Beyond continuation podcast. I would love that. Will Friedle is great. I haven't seen much of that show, I need to at some point. I really, really do. That I would love if he got the chance to come back in that. I mean, even it doesn't even have to be in the podcast. I bet he'd do it in like an animated thing as well.
Yeah,
Was he in that?
I'm currently
What-
watching. Or go ahead.
What's
I
that?
was asking who that guy was. Was he the one that
He
played
plays Terry in Batman the Anime or Batman Beyond. Sorry.
Yeah.
Terry? Wicked show.
Yeah, I'm currently going back through it, rewatching it.
Mhm.
It's great. It's so good.
Yeah. I think it ties in really well with the Batman animated series as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the first episode. That was so good.
Yeah.
The way Batman was just like, I'm retiring now. That's it. I was just there for it. I was there for it. So cool.
And it just makes me wish we got a Batman Beyond game.
That'd be really cool.
That'd be fun.
I think just Batman Beyond as a whole could be a whole franchise. Like, I think that would be, which I think once they get things established, we very much can. Like, I think that could be in their wheelhouse for Elseworlds.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was originally a plan. If the Flash movie
Michael
had done
Keaton.
well, I think, Michael Keaton would have come back, and I feel like that also would have somewhat tied into Batgirl even as well, since he was going to be in there. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which I can understand, like, to an extent. Like, I think we were at a point where we needed just to stop and just take a pause, and then we can, like, reevaluate later. And I think Batman Beyond is one that needed to be like, okay, let's wait for now.
It's funny that Marvel's got What If, considering that should be DC's tagline at this point. Just
I think it will be.
What
I
if?
really do.
I really universe. Just what if we could have done it? What if, you know?
I think Elseworlds is where DC gets their money. I really do. Like, I think it's going to take a while for like DCU to get their footing together. But I think your Batman 2, your Joker 2, we have that other Superman project happening. I think maybe a Constantine 2 could maybe do well. I think there's so many projects that I think would make so much money if we, let them thrive over there in Elseworlds. And I think that's what Marvel should be doing. I really do, because as much as I love the MCU, there is a thing where I think people want something new. I think people want something fresh. And we're in a 20-year now universe. We're going to be going into almost 30 in a couple of years, right? So I think I wish they would do more like What If live action stuff. I suck that we can never have another Iron Man, right? We can never have another Black Widow or Captain America, right? So yeah, I don't know. Let's move on here over to Marvel. Most of our news today is from Marvel. I thought this one was really funny. Going over to Sony, a cut variant from Across the Spider-Verse was a Spider-Man toy controlled by a giant kid's hand that would go off screen and hold him. I think this is the funniest story. Do you think we should have kept it in? Are you mad that they took it out?
I mean, that would have been fun. I mean, it would tie it even further into that theory of like the Lego movie, like the Lego Spider-Man universe was the Lego movie universe.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, do you think that it would have subtracted from that punchline a little bit? Because
Maybe.
if it was
Yeah.
punchline,
The toys,
then
yeah.
it wouldn't have got the light it was shining with.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
I think this does open up a lot of questions as well. Like I feel like we almost enter like Toy Story territory, whereas like, is this Spider-Man alive and he's just a toy, or is the kid Spider-Man and he's off fighting? I have a lot of questions on how that all works.
It's like almost too far breaking.
Yeah,
the
too
fourth
many.
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand why they maybe cut this out. And again, it's very Lego movie, because like the end of the Lego movie is literally like them playing with the Legos, and that like their imagination powers everything. So maybe a step too far, but I love the imagination. Like, I love that their brains went here and that they wanted to do a scene like this. I think that's adorable. I will say, if they got a kid, I hope that they would have got the kid that made the like Lego Spider-Man guy inside the movie. Like, I wish they would have got that kid to do it. Yeah.
Fun.
Him or Tom Holland?
A de-aged Tom Holland. Just from like Iron Man 2, that like little kid that everyone says
that
is
theory.
Tom Holland. Oh gosh. All right, moving right along here. So Benedict Cumberbatch will film as Doctor Strange in 2024. I'm happy about this. I'm always happy to see more Doctor Strange. I think he's always a treat. So
Sure.
out of the projects that we know are kind of filming next year, where are we feeling that Doctor Strange might pop up in?
I need to have a look. What's coming next year?
I should have pulled it up. I really should have. I think the two big theories I'm seeing around is Blade 1 and Fantastic Four. I think those are the two big ones that we know that are filming next year. Unless there's some other stuff that we don't know that's filming yet, which is very possible.
Deadpool 3 is filming in 2024.
It's about done filming, actually.
Yeah, it's filming now.
Yeah.
Wait, it says filming now. The release date's 24. Excuse me.
Yeah. I don't think Deadpool would make sense. Actually, Deadpool would make a lot of sense. Talking like I could have seen Deadpool and I could have seen the Thunderbolts as well, but that's also filming this year, so I don't. Again, it could be something we don't know about yet. Like it could be like a weird. I don't think it would. It wouldn't happen, but like a Spider-Man 4 or something crazy like that we don't know about yet.
Yeah, or what if they go crazy and chuck him in Madam Web?
Ooh.
Actually, maybe. Isn't that film though, or no?
I guess they were filming it. I guess they might be done, but they could do reshoots. So
it could be a show as well. Like I thought the quote I saw said movie, but it could be. I don't even know what shows would be filming. Wonder Man or something. Like I don't even know what shows are coming out.
Just something random.
Sure.
I mean, or who knows? Maybe they just are filming Doctor Strange 3 next year.
It could be,
and that just hasn't been announced yet.
Yeah, which I think is very possible. I really do, because I think we need a Doctor Strange 3 before Kang Dynasty. I think that's important.
Yeah. I hope they bring Sam Raimi back again.
That depends.
Direct.
That does depend because how we're talking about DC Elseworlds story, Doctor Strange's story, because he's gone over to the Dark Dimension with Clea, could be a very self-contained story that could span time very differently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no. I mean, you don't have to, obviously, but I think Doctor Strange is going to be a very big player in that movie, and I just assume that you would want to have like a movie. I don't know. I could see a world where Kang is in Doctor Strange 3, and like you really do set up Kang Dynasty, because I think out of the I think there's a lot of big projects we don't know about yet leading into Kang Dynasty. I really, really do. Because 2020, because now it got pushed back to 2026 or 2027, and there's a lot of spots open now that could fill in those spots. So
I think like just because like if you don't go off of like the other characters which Marvel heavily relied on for the Avengers movies, especially because they are the name of it, Doctor Strange in part 1 and 2 or 3 or 4, however you want to do Infinity War and Endgame, was very pivotal. And I think that because of the consequences of where Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty are going to go, it's going to be more scientific and less mystical. I mean, I know they're supposed to be one and the same, maybe, but I think there's going to be repercussions of the heroes, and everything's going to be like closing in. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like what we saw with the Flash movie, where it's going to be like a lot of collisions and incursions, and a lot of destruction, and it's going to be like Iron Man tech and Mr. Fantastic tech.
Yeah.
Some stolen from Doom, apparently, which I didn't know.
I think it might be a mix of both. I really do. Like, I think you'll have a lot of your Doctor Strange and like your Agatha and Wanda, but again, I think you also have a big players in your like Fantastic Four, your Ant-Man, all that kind of jazz, I guess. So yeah, I mean, let's just move. Let's move this train along. So this is a weird one. So this has been a big topic of discussion over the last week that I think is absurd. So apparently, and again, this is rumor. I want to press at this. This is deep rumor. I don't like talking about rumor, but it's been talked about so much this week, I wanted to bring it up. So apparently, Marvel is not happy with the series Echo, and there are people that want the show to be written off as like a tax write-off. I think this would be the most insane decision ever. I think this would be so dumb. I think the fact that we can even tax write-off shows to begin with is absurd. I think that's so dumb. How do we feel? Do we think Echo should just like disappear?
No, I saw people posting like, "Oh, what's your most anticipated Marvel project for the rest of the year?" Like, honestly, looking at that list, Echo is one of my favorites, just because of the fact that it's going to tie so closely into
Daredevil. Yeah.
Daredevil Born Again. Yeah, so I enjoyed this character quite a bit during the Hawkeye series. I loved the Hawkeye series
Yeah.
as a whole. So just any continuation of that and anything that's going to, lead us into Daredevil Born Again, like I'm very excited for it, and I'm just very curious as to what is happening behind the scenes, as to why maybe Marvel's not very confident in this project. I know they're dropping it all at once at the end of the year rather than releasing it weekly like everything else has been. So yeah, I hope that it just gets to release as planned, and people get to make up their minds once they see it. So
I think this is just a prime example, and I think you see it a lot, especially in this like comic book sphere. I think we're just afraid to get out of our comfort zone. This is a character that no one has heard of, not a lot of people know about, and that and in their minds it makes it not worth it. And I think that's very dumb. I think the second we get a trailer, people are going to be very hyped, because I have a feeling they're really going to market Kingpin and Matt,
yeah,
and maybe even Jessica, because we've heard rumors she's in that as well. And I don't see a world where they would tax read it, because this seems to be like really setting up the Daredevil show. I don't know.
right. Yeah, I
unless
don't know how you could skip it.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's.
How are they setting up the Daredevil show? Is it the weight? Are they just giving the Daredevil show weight by using this as kind of like a flashback and explainer?
Well, Matt and Kingpin are in the show.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean,
we don't know yet. We don't know what they're doing, but I assume it's going to, like, we've heard the rumor that like Echo, Daredevil, and Spider-Man 4 are like one long story. Again, we don't know if that's true or not, but that's been the overall, like, that being like one longer story. So I don't know. I just want
really funny. Sorry, that'd be really funny. Is if they just fill this with hallway fights and then just to shut everybody up. Do you know what I mean? They're like, we know you want
too much.
Just one hallway fight per episode.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Or no, the entire series is just one long hallway fight scene.
It's just 8 hours of it.
That would be like the greatest cinematic or television marvel of all time.
I will agree with this. I hate when like streamers drop things all at once. Like certain shows, I definitely get why. Like certain shows are better on a binge. I get that. Just like, especially Netflix, man. Like there's so many Netflix shows I just wish I could cover. Like Stranger Things and stuff like that would be so much fun to talk about on like a weekly basis. And I don't know. I think that way of just like telling a story is outdated now. I think most streaming services are learning that you don't get as much money when you drop everything at once.
Yeah, well, which is why Netflix is doing those like volume 1, volume 2 things.
Yeah, 100%.
Which I almost hate more than dropping it all at once, because they did that. They're doing that with The Witcher season 3. They dropped 5 episodes, and then I think there's only 3 episodes in the second volume, so it's up through episode 8. But we've got to wait a month between volumes, so it's like, at that point, I almost would have much rather just them dropped episodes weekly or drop it all at once. And I'm just not a fan of that volume style.
Stranger Things was like the same way. Like I think they had 10 episodes. They dropped 8 at once, and then they dropped the other 2 like 2 months later. And everyone's
which is
just
part
like,
of the reason why I never watched it. Like,
oh, really?
I dropped off because it was so long between seasons, and they were doing that weird thing. I was just like, I didn't care anymore.
No, go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
But if Echo and Daredevil communicate, how's that going to work?
That's the question I think everyone's wondering, and I'm excited to find out.
Psychic. I don't know.
Chosen Vader in the house. How's it going? All right, I'm gonna move on here. Because we are kind of on a time schedule. So Shang-Chi 2 was apparently supposed to release after Avengers Kang Dynasty. I thought this was very interesting. I thought this was an interesting headline. I was under the impression, just in my own head, I was like, oh, this is probably going to be one of the movies leading up to Kang Dynasty. If this is true, we have a long wait for Shang-Chi 2. I thought this would be one of their new big franchises. I thought they would really try and get a second one on the ball pretty early. But maybe I'm very curious to why. Like, what happens in the Avengers movies that lead up to him? I don't know, getting like what's the plot of that second movie? You know what I mean?
Sorry, just quickly. I'm just not surprised that it took so long because I know less people that have seen the first one that have seen Eternals, and
Really?
the annoying thing is that the people that have seen it, everybody loved it. There was like one person that was like, I didn't understand it, but everybody else really loved it, especially the little creature, Norm, whatever his name is, forget his name. But as to what the second one could be about, that is very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume it's just going to be following on from where we left off in the first movie with, I guess, basically his sister assuming control of the, I guess, Mandarin mantle.
Which she was supposed to get a show as well. So I wonder if that comes out before Avengers. And then maybe he's in it, and that's kind of where you like bridge the gaps a little bit, because that's a long time to wait if we never see him again before like 2026. Like that's a long wait.
It's weird too, because this movie was, I think, kind of globally said as like one of the best parts of the last Marvel phase.
100%.
Like, while everything else was kind of like, passable to kind of just like, this one was actually like, oh, this is a good movie. Like, action sequences were great. The story made sense. The character was enjoyable and everything like that, and it tied in quite nicely to everything. So I hope we see a sequel sooner rather than later. But
it kind of feels like that perfect balance of like doing something new that people want, but also keeping that like formula that everyone also like loves, but they don't want to say that they love. Like that.
Right. Well,
it feels like that perfect balance.
It felt like classic Phase 1, Phase 2 Marvel.
Yeah.
But not in like a backtracking type of way.
I like what Taz said about going back to his sister, because depending on what kind of leader she's going to be, with everything that's happening now, with Armor Wars coming, Secret Invasion happening, she could either be very singular and I am my power and me alone, or she could have a lot of fingers in different pies that could connect very well into the MCU, and the 10 rings could be very prominent, which would be very cool.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said. Like, I think they're doing something with his rings, Miss Marvel's gauntlets, and then there's one more. I'm forgetting. I think there's like a third thing that everyone's like, that could lead to this or whatever.
Oh, right. Like everything, like all the rings like look connected.
Yeah.
Wasn't it something with like Kang's sphere or something?
Maybe. It might be, yeah.
Right. So, okay. So I wanted, like, because they were talking about Shang-Chi's rings being from Deep Space, I was really hoping that they were going to be like the McLuhan dragons or whatever they were. I mean, there's just going to be one of them just flying in through space or whatever. That'd be sick. Did not like the assumption that the Negabands and Shang-Chi's rings were one and the same kind of thing. I like that being their own thing, especially when that like ties into a whole other dimension that is their own. But that's me.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Do you want them to be connected, or would you rather they were separate?
I'm down. I think when it comes to like the big stuff, I think Marvel usually knows what they're doing, especially when it comes to their big events. So I'm fine. I think Shang-Chi is going to be a big figure when it comes to Kang and what they're building till there. So I'm just willing to see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with everything, there's always some sort of a common through line. So whether they're like closely connected or just very loosely kind of, loosely tied together, but all kind of like culminate to whatever the big payoff is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Miata, we don't know if it's going to be a trilogy yet, but I would assume.
I would hope so.
Because it did pretty well. Like, money-wise, it did well.
Yeah.
I would assume with the second one does well, they'll probably do a third one, most likely.
When it says was meant to be released, are we assuming it's been pushed back? Or...
Yes. They had said due to, I mean, just like Avengers getting pushed back, that they don't know. Like everything's kind of getting put on hold.
Shifted.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll see.
We were spoiled for a while. That's what it was. We were spoiled.
Absolutely. Moving on to some of the big stuff. Official first look at Deadpool 3. Ryan Reynolds' first, I guess, leaked photos online of his new suit as Deadpool. I'm just happy Deadpool's back, man. It feels like it's been forever. It feels like Deadpool 3 always kind of felt like this movie that was more of a myth than actually happening.
Yeah.
We did like the whole Fox universe closed down, kind of. We didn't know how an R-rated movie would work in like the MCU. But it's full force now. It's happening. This week there's been so much that's coming out, so much rumors, so much specs, so much stuff. Just kind of right off the bat, I know that some of the writing's cutting it off a little bit, but how are we feeling about this suit?
It's perfect. It's slightly brighter than the suit that we've seen in the last two movies. It's very minimal updates to it, like some different like intricate angles and designs and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's the exact same suit, just brighter, and I love that.
Yeah, I literally just had to just stop myself from just launching at the camera. Like, how sexy is that red? Like, it just. I'm so ready for this, and especially because those two guys just love and vibe off each other. So it's like the buddy road movie that everybody wants to see. So it cannot get here fast enough.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'm somewhat worried about is the fact that they're continuing production during the writer's strike.
Yeah.
And because Ryan Reynolds is technically considered a writer on the movie, he's not allowed to ad-lib as much as he would have in the past. Now, I think the only, workaround for that is the fact that Deadpool's always wearing the mask, and we've heard in the past that a lot of, the more iconic lines and stuff like that have been 80-yard over what they recorded while they were actually filming. So I think that that's the one thing that is kind of like saves this in a way. But I would be kind of remiss to say if I wasn't a little bit worried about that, especially also that means that we can't have, Hugh Jackman doing a lot of ad-libbing either.
Yeah.
That I'm okay with, especially because he's going to be the straight man, right? So I'm right there with you, and I love where you're thinking, right? Because, like, if anything, it helps shore up his movie because he has that in the back pocket. It stops it being pushed back as much. It stops it like being a what if. It's still on the tracks. It's still going. And then he could like go out for drinks with the right and say, look, this is a situation. Let's start and get ad lib and let's have some fun.
Yeah.
So fully like that. I love that.
Hero's Journey. I mean, easy answer. Toys, merch. Yeah. I mean, I guess not toys.
Funko Pops.
yeah. I think that's more likely. And just also, it's been a while since the last movie. I like a little bit of an upgrade every couple of years, right? He's in, he's part of the MCU now. He's not part of Fox. I think he was due for like a new suit. I'm fine with this suit, and I think. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I kind of like this better. Like, I think it looks a lot more vibrant.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it's completely different. It's just a very, very slight upgrade, just kind of, just smoothing out any rough edges and brightening it up for people.
I say this in the best way possible. It reminds me of like a CW suit where it looks very comfy. Like, it looks nice. Like, it feels like that looks like a comfortable thing to wear. Where the last one looked more like armory, kind of looked a lot more like stiff.
Well, it's interesting. It almost looks less leathery than the last two suits. If you look up a little bit closely on it, it's more like padded or kind of like Kevlar armory in a way, rather than just kind of like a leather jacket with leather pants. Like, it's a little more textured, I guess.
Like Darren was saying, more Flash season 9 than Arrow season 1.
Yeah,
for sure.
Actually, it definitely has that Flash vibe, that like current Flash suit vibe. Yeah. Definitely look like that.
Like a nice little sock you can just whack on.
Oh, you know what I just also thought about too? The main reason why he would need a new suit is, wasn't it like pretty much destroyed at the end of Deadpool 2 anyway?
Shot at all sorts, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. He just needed to make a new suit. Like, whether or not it has like extra tech or anything like that, he just had to reinvent it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, because we got like a little bit of an X-Force look with him.
Yeah.
Cool.
I really like the idea. I wonder where he gets this, because like we know this is a multiverse movie. I think it'd be really funny if he just stole some other like Deadpool suit. Like, I need a suit. I'm gonna whoop.
Oh, and then we could go like we could travel to the post-credit scene or the end scene of the Wolverine and have Logan just yoink that suit that he never used.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Dude, what if that suit gets revealed
Dude.
in a set picture? The internet is going to explode.
That's what I'm
The
waiting
internet
for.
will explode.
Had it in his
I
lap,
think-
and he wants to be in it. He's gonna turn up in it.
I would be shocked if he doesn't have some kind of like iconic suit.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it would be such a waste if he's just wearing a white tank top the entire time.
No, I
That's not happening. I promise you now. That's not
I need it.
happening. Not happening.
That alone makes the whole movie worth it for me. Just to see Hugh Jackman in a suit, a real suit.
Mhm. Yeah, like that's gonna something that we've been waiting more than 20
Oh
years
my
for at this point.
Speculation. Who do you think, or how, sorry, do you think that the multiverse traveling will occur? Will it be will ability break via Deadpool? Do you think it will be consequences of Kang Invasion and Secret Wars? Or just something that comes off of the back of the tech that he got from Cable?
I think it's that option, that the time travel device from Cable, we maybe find out that he's not quite time traveling, that it's tying
Multiverse
into
hopping.
that MCU style of time travel,
Yeah.
which is more so multiverse hopping rather than full on like Back to the Future style time travel.
Okay, I like that. I can do
We
that.
also mostly know that Mobius is in here, so it's possible maybe he steals one of his gadget type things to travel the multiverse. I'm actually very curious, or maybe he's there because he is using the Cable thing, and he's like, "Hey man, you have to stop! Like you're ruining things here, man." But I mean, that's a really good segue for our final thing here. So I do want to press this that some of these are rumors. A lot of these are rumors, but a lot of them seem true. A lot of them, and one is confirmed.
Yes.
So Channing Tatum, who
That's
almost
great.
played Gambit, but didn't quite play Gambit, if I remember correctly. Jennifer Garner, who played Elektra, Ben Affleck, who played Daredevil, and Elizabeth Olsen, we know her, is all rumored for Deadpool 3. Now, there's been a couple of others as well, but these are the four main ones that I've seen floating around Twitter and the internet the last couple of days. How are we feeling about their returns? Because I've heard different things about each one, and we can break them down. Let's actually just start from start to finish. So Channing Tatum as Gambit, he almost got his own movie over in the Fox universe, and then the whole Disney thing came in. They bought the studios, never happened. If I remember correctly, are we down for seeing some Gambit in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a nice kind of payoff. Like after all said and done, he didn't get his own movie. He didn't get to show up anywhere else. But if we're doing multiverse travel, we can maybe go to a universe in which that actually played out the way it was supposed to, and just give him a chance to play this character that he's talked about for years.
Wow.
How funny would it be if he's not Gambit, but they go to a universe where he's playing Gambit, where it's the actor
Oh my
making the
God.
movie? How funny would that be?
I could actually almost see that being more likely.
That I'm down for. The rest of it, right? This is again where I'm becoming a hypocrite, because the Nicolas Cage thing, I was like, woo, that's so cool. But with Channing Tatum, he got less far in the production. Do you know what I mean? It was all talks, whispers.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It was fan casting from his behalf and everybody else. Do you know what I mean? So I'm less inclined to see it. I do think there are different team up iterations that they could show, different dynamics that could pay off a little bit better, but that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. Gambit's just a character I love. He's one of my favorite X-Men-esque characters, and I was so excited for that movie just to see a Gambit film. That's probably a pretty weird choice out of all the characters, but I was still really excited to see it. And I hope we still get it at some point. I hope we get a Gambit, either special presentation, once he's in the MCU, or even a show could be maybe cool. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. Now Jennifer Garner is the one that's confirmed. She is in this movie. Are we shocked by this? That
I'm shocked that she would be announced before Ben Affleck Daredevil, but the fact that they confirmed her, you almost kind of...
It's happening, yeah.
It's all right, it's pretty much given that Ben Affleck will be back as Daredevil as well. You kind of... In a lot of ways, Daredevil and Elektra are kind of a package deal sometimes.
Sure. I'm almost so inclined. I wonder if these cameos are going to be like serious cameos, like they're in the movie, or are they all for jokes? Like, are they parodying the cameo things in movies, right? Like, are they parroting Flash and like No Way Home and stuff?
I think they're gonna maybe be at the extent of, say, like the Multiverse of Madness cameos. Like, they're not gonna be massive parts of the movie, but they're going to be there to just explore the multiverse and kind of show what's out there, all these different versions of these characters that we've seen in the past, just to say, hey, this is the multiverse. I wonder, like, honestly, if it's going to be Wolverine and Deadpool traveling the multiverse to get to the main MCU timeline. Like, they have to go through all of these weird extra timelines to get to main MCU to be here for Secret Wars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It does. Sorry, go on.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It does feel like this is Marvel's version of George Clooney.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the booby prize that nobody was asking for.
Hi, Chainsaw.
Right, and then like now that it's kind of being announced, we're kind of like, yeah, that's what I wanted the whole time. This is great. But like this was the prize in the box that everybody was hoping to miss.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, this is just me again, and I sound like a sour note, but I'm hoping that they get like Birds of Prey in Crisis kind of screen time.
Yeah.
I
could see that for sure.
Where it's in there, everyone's had their fun, but it does not detract or take away from anything that is essential.
Sure. It is really funny that Ben Affleck might be in Deadpool 3 and Flash. He's part of both these multiverse movies.
I would, if he comes back, can we please get an interaction of Ben Affleck Daredevil and Charlie Cox Daredevil? Just
I would like that.
Just kind of just face off for a second. Like, I don't know, that'd be kind of cool.
What's kind of crazy, we live in a world where we have both Daredevils in like the MCU. Like 5 years ago, that would have been insane.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't acknowledge Daredevil at all, and now we have both. Is insane.
And it's also interesting to think that Ben Affleck will have played Daredevil and Batman like in quick succession now. Like it was always like, oh, kind of like that trivia piece. It's like now that he's playing now that he played Batman, it's like, oh, he also played a Marvel hero with Daredevil. But the fact that it could be in like quick succession like this is crazy to think about.
Do you think, depending on how much screen time they have, do you think they will go the Charlie Cox route and change him to fit the so where like Charlie Cox is, everyone was moaning that he became too lighthearted in the space of a couple of episodes. Excuse me, that this one might lean more into like the Batman thing that kind of is working for him at the moment, or that he might also just come in and be super fun for everybody.
I think it'd be interesting if they try to like hold on to the tone of the universe that each of these characters are from, but then maybe kind of like merge that into what we're trying to do, obviously, with Deadpool 3. And I don't think this movie is going to be crazy serious. Like Deadpool, the last two Deadpool movies have not been like overly serious. Like Deadpool 2 did have some like very like intimate moments and stuff like that, and which is why I kind of like Deadpool 2 more than Deadpool 1 even. But I don't think it's going to be as like I don't think it's going to be as serious or as deep as a lot of people think.
No, I can see a world where these are all joke cameos, or even just like make fun of the fact that it's a cameo movie.
Yeah, where, like Deadpool's gonna be like, hey, look, there's a cameo.
Yeah, or like it's a word where you start to show all these cameos. Like, wait, we ain't doing this in my movie. Just, like, fast words
or he just turns to the camera. All right, guys, you can clap now.
That'd be great. That'd be so great.
I would have a clicker and count how many. I'm going for a record, guys.
Okay. Do we think Deadpool 3 is going to mention the like buyout? Like back in the day when they first announced it, I loved the idea of the plot of the movie being that like Disney bought Fox and his whole universe was shutting down, and he had to like escape to the MCU before everyone else died. I had loved this idea, and I feel like they could do something similar. Like I know a lot of people are saying that like Deadpool kills the like Fox universe, and that's kind of like the plot line to go with. I could see that. Or I think I've said this before. I think Phase 4, 5, and 6 is all about gathering all these other multiverse heroes for when we do get Secret Wars, right? We have all these characters ready. Like we have the Ben Affleck Daredevil, we have Spider-Mans, we have the Wolverines, we have the Professor Xavier's, and so it doesn't feel jarring when they all just kind of show up at the very end, and it kind of all kind of makes sense. So I could see this movie really head starting that if they want to. I guess if Daredevil kills him, he can't really do that. Deadpool, I mean. So I'm not really sure. I'm curious.
Do you think? I mean, I know that the MCU kind of likes to double down in some of the stuff, like repeating, in certain ways. But given that we recently had that with She-Hulk, do you think that they would go for that whole thing?
I mean, I think just the nature of Deadpool would be to go even further. Just do as many fourth wall breaks, deep cuts, just crazy nonsense that you can possibly do. And just kind of, I think Darren is kind of right in this aspect, is just have it be like just the journey to get into the main MCU timeline, and then possibly leave the door open for something that I've been wanting for a while, which is a Spidey Pool team-up movie. Make it a PG-13 movie.
That'd be fun.
Where the entire movie is Deadpool trying to fit an F-bomb into the movie, and the post-credit scene is when he said, "Oh, I forgot to say it," and then he says it.
Yeah,
that's my movie.
Great.
You just the entire movie exists
Perfect.
for the sole purpose of one joke.
Yeah, that'd be great. Chainsaw Rack says, "I've always said I want Deadpool to watch all the movies, and we see a montage of him catching up on what he missed. Have Kevin Feige with him on the couch to explain things." That sounds like that's a great just promo. Like that's a great trailer just to promote the movie. That sounds great.
That's kind of the thing I meant with She-Hulk, because we've already been to the writers' room. So you have the him killing the universe and stuff, but to go to that extent, I feel was a bit too close for me. Do you know what I mean? Like if they saved it, if they didn't have that at the end of She-Hulk and they saved that for Deadpool, even better. But we got at the end of She-Hulk.
Sure.
I wasn't expecting it, but I was down for it. Cool.
I'm curious because I know a lot of people had a problem with the fourth wall breakings and stuff, and I think some of it was valid. I think some of it was forced with what people were complaining about because again, like Deadpool had been doing it for years and people loved it, and then the second She-Hulk started doing it, everyone hated it, and it's cringy. I was like,
that was honestly one of my favorite parts of She-Hulk. If not my favorite part, the fact that of how that finale ended off with just going to the real world and stuff, and I don't know, that was enjoyable for me.
I liked it. I liked it in theory, I think, but I think the execution maybe could have been a little bit better. I think maybe they could have
reminded of the Simpsons episode where he goes into the real world.
I don't know. I don't know how I would have done it. I felt like they were still oh, we're done now. Okay. I think maybe I would have liked a better conclusion to everything, because it did kind of feel like in times it felt like there were some writing choices where it's oh, we're not going to talk about that because we just meant to fix it all at the end.
Would you have almost rather it have been more say the 90s Spider-Man animated series where he was doing all the multiverse travel and stuff like that and met Stan Lee and everything in the real world? That was fun.
That show made me, honestly, one of the shows that made me. I love that show so much.
Yeah, I don't know. I like that ending a lot, but I don't know.
I would say, sorry. I did, like you said, I like the idea of it. The fact that she's taking her narrative away from everybody else, and she's saying, no, this is the story I'm trying to tell.
Yeah.
I love that. I was down for that. But again, like you said, the execution was a little bit iffy, especially the fact that Ken was a robot. I mean, was the guy too busy? God damn.
I like the robot, I think. But what I do think is
the robot even had his little hat.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people who were like, will Kevin defeat Kang the Conqueror? And I was like, all right, no. no. All right, and then let's talk about Elizabeth Olsen as well. So she's rumored, but not the rumors that she's not Laura Scarlet Witch but she's the Scarlet Witch from the Multiverse of Madness timeline, like that multiverse, and a part of that movie would take place on that Earth. I think that's kind of interesting because I think that makes way for a lot of things people have been wanting to see, is to see her with like Magneto, and you can bring back Evan Peters and stuff, and you can have that family trio that people have been wanting to see. I would personally love that. Like, I love the X-Men. I love that side of the character, and I would love to see maybe Wanda finally gets a chance to play a mutant, right? Because she hasn't been able to do that. So if she got to play that almost X-Men-y character she's been wanting to for a while, I'd be very down. Even bring like Polaris from the like Gifted show. Bring
that'd
her
be
in.
perfect.
I would love that. I loved her so much. I love that show so much.
I hope that they incorporate her into
that'd be great.
The main MCU at some point.
Why not? Like, just have her play the character again. It doesn't have to be the same one. Just be a version of that character.
Yeah, just a version of Polaris.
Sure.
And just like have the whole like
family.
Magneto family.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
I would be very interested to find out who fathered their kids over there, for one. Two, obviously not every Scarlet Witch is going to have the same like level of power. Like, I genuinely, just because of like her being a family woman, I kind of, in my head, just kind of went, oh, she's not as powerful as our Scarlet Witch.
Sure.
And that's why it was so easy for her to take over. You know what I mean? But no, I would be super down for that, because that's a whole history which would be really, really rich and full of stuff to go into. 2 seconds.
I also wonder because apparently I think we're going to get those kids back at some point. What if they use this movie to like maybe the kids fall into the MCU timeline or something, and that's how we get them in Agatha or something like that?
Right. I was about to say, I was like, I don't know when they are supposed to take place in relation to each other, but if this does take place before the Agatha series, then that could set up very nicely for for even more of them to pop up there.
Sure.
I will say though that because of how involved Scarlet Witch has been with everything, because of the comic book death we got with no body and everything, everybody's just dying for answers. So every project that is like Deadpool 3, her name is always mentioned.
Oh yeah, the fact that we didn't see she's still alive.
Oh yeah,
for sure,
absolutely.
For sure. Like, especially being one of the most, if not the most powerful character in the entire MCU at this point.
She's like, I'm done. I'm like, no, you're not. There's no way you're dead.
I'm done. I'm not coming back. Don't worry about it.
I think by the time we get to
levels.
Agatha, she'll probably pop in. I wonder if Agatha brings her back or something. Like, she summons her or something.
That'd be interesting.
Alrighty. Are there any very quick final thoughts on this? Because we do need to move along here.
Like instead of Agatha summoning her, maybe she just like transported herself to another universe at the end of Multiverse of Madness.
Sure.
And then that's how she pops up.
Maybe. All right. With that being said, let's quickly, not too long now, but let's get into the newest episode of Secret Invasion. Episode 3. So obviously we're getting into spoilers now. If you have not seen Secret Invasion, get out of here. Go. We're talking spoilers. So episode 3. How are we feeling?
Rhodey is a Skrull. I rest my case.
That's a trailer. That's from the trailer. That's not what we've seen so far.
I just picked random photos that I
saw. I am also absolutely loving this. The intrigue is intense. The stakes are phenomenally high, as is shown by Maria Hill. And spoilers, but obviously Gaia. The second that she made that thing on the burner and handed it over, I was like, that's it. Poor choice. Right into the trap. I did wonder whether she'd get away, but the second that you kind of got the tense music, and just you kind of felt that shift. You know what I mean? When she was trying to leave the compound, I was just like, yeah, you ain't making it. You ain't making it. I feel bad. You tried helping everybody. Yeah, you ain't making it.
This show has been so much better than I originally thought it was going to be. Just like you said, the mystery, the intrigue, the fact that it's become more so like a character study of Nick Fury. And I knew that this was going to be very much so a Nick Fury focused show.
Yeah.
But we are diving so deep into his character. We found out about this secret wife he had that, you know, she's ends up being kind of suspicious and stuff like that. But like, just that relationship was very interesting. Having him try to, you know, have to actually come to terms with Talos and everything like that as well, kind of realizing how much he has actually, you know, helped over the years, and the fact that Fury would not be at the position that he is without the help of Talos and the rest of the Skrulls. Just the intensity of Gravik as well. He is a very intimidating villain, and just he has his hands in everything and has just so much control. And then the fact also, like, the show does not seem like they are afraid of killing characters. Like, I was not expecting what we got towards the end of this episode, but I don't think she's gone for good.
No.
Oh,
I mean,
no, really?
I mean, spoilers, there's shots in the trailer that we haven't seen yet. So
Crazy.
either they were cut. I also don't think you cast this actress for
I was about to say, like, she's a kind of a big name. I don't think
I wouldn't be shocked
kill
if
her
they're
off
like
immediately.
I wouldn't be shocked if Kevin Feige's like, hey, do you want to like a TV show or do you want to move? Like, I think they're going to market off that actress for sure.
I will say the other guys. That's all I'm going to say. Okay? You can hire as big a name as you want for a punchline.
I guess
that is true.
That is true, and just kind of just to show the sheer just like lengths that Gravik is willing to go.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I'd be curious if she faked her death there, or if she is dead, but we just follow the human version of her, right? Like the version that they snapped.
Oh,
which could
that is
be,
true too.
Yeah. So like you still have the weight that she's freaking dead, right? Like
Talos's daughter is dead,
yeah.
but the actress is not completely gone. Yeah, and I think that room, like, because she visited that room again where all the humans are being stored and stuff like that. I think that is going to come back into play.
Oh, 100%.
A lot, especially because at the end of the episode we figure out. I mean, it's not explicitly told to us, but you know, Fury's wife is going around doing some sketchy stuff. She gets a call on the phone and was like, I'm trying to talk to Gravik, and then the voice on the other line is like, no, you've got me, and that sounded a lot like Rhodey. And I think that confirmed our theory. And, you know, if we're going into Armor Wars, are we going to have Skrull Rhodey, or are we going to have to rescue the real one from this Skrull base?
That's nuts.
I'm going to be honest. I'm still team that he's a Skrull. But I feel like this episode, I almost believe it less, because now it feels like they're hitting it very hard. Like from last week's episode to the ending, I was almost like, is this a misdirect? Are we going to end it and he is really just not a Skrull? He's just not a dick right now?
No, not at all. I think he's definitely a Skrull, because they double down on the only my friends call me Fury, not Nick, because in episode 2,
last episode
Rhodey called him Nick, and then in this episode when they were, you know, going into the house and everything, right? And he called him Nick, and he's like, no. Like that's how he knows how to get around it. So
but then there's nothing to say that Rhodey and Nick are friends.
Yeah, but he said nobody called me Nick.
Just helping brothers out, you know, as they said. I'm in the camp of I'm hoping it's a life model decoy.
That'd be great.
Right?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Sorry, I just have to get this out, right? The support groups that exist for the blip, can you imagine the support groups that are going to have to exist for these poor guys? The ones that are there? Jesus, right? But like Taz was saying with Talos, like they have like a real like history that may or may not be fully Nick. You know what I mean? Because as well, I felt, this is going back an episode or two, but when he told him about Soren, like Nick reacted a little bit more than just a friend would, in my opinion. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know, it felt like there was something.
There's definitely vibes there. Like I don't think that's where we're going.
No.
Like there was definitely moments where I was like, interesting. Yeah. But I think I think that's honestly just because we haven't seen Nick vulnerable ever. Like, this is really the first time where we've seen this side of Nick Fury, and I love it. Like, I think this is what I think this is just what the MCU needed. I said this last week, but I really wish this was. I wish this was the ending of Phase 4, actually, because this feels like, I think, a good wrap up of what I guess I wanted Phase 4 to be, and that's like the consequences of Endgame. And this is a Endgame sequel in a weird way. Like, it's a sequel to Captain Marvel, but like for the first time, it feels like we're really seeing the consequences of the blip, and like especially what it's done to Fury and what it did to his life, and like the Avengers. Like, the Avengers are gone, and we feel that here. And I love that. I honestly wish it was either mid Phase 4 or even like the ending of Phase 4. I think that could have been a nice wrap up to everything if we set up some of the earlier, like if we like laid some groundworks in like the Falcon, if they set up, because like those tones also kind of feel very similar to like consequences of the blip, but I don't feel like Falcon really. I don't know. I don't think they did much with it. Like, I think they started to, but then they kind of fell off just a little bit inside the back half. So I don't know.
I was a part of my idea with the life model decoy is back to his trying to get over the blip. Do you know what I mean? Like, say for example, if this is like could be a therapy device as well, that he's like put all of his weaknesses in, or everything that he needs to work through, and then that's like what he goes off doing. So then his mind could be now free. Do you know what I mean? It's super advanced technology and could work on any level. Quickly back to episode 2, because I had to show a friend it. Nick Fury's wife, right? The one that we like get the backstory for see episode 3. When she introduces Gravik and the whole room changes, she doesn't change with Gravik. She's in there and her hands are green on Gravik's shoulders. So Gravik isn't the only one in the room. Do you know what I mean? So her being on site, I was like, oh my God, like that says it all now. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, it just like they are just going so deep into this, and I'm very, very excited to see like where the rest of it goes. Like I'm actually kind of sad that it's only going to be a 6-episode show. Like, I almost feel like this could have been, a longer like 8-10 episode series at this point. Like, there's just so much to dive into.
I said before that I thought 6 was the perfect number for the show, and I think they still might wrap it up very well. But yeah, you could have easily had it be 8, 10. Yeah, maybe 13, maybe, but I don't know. That might be too much.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot on the table that we have to wrap up before the end of this, and we are now halfway through. So, I think we're gonna pick up next week's episode, and we're going to, I guess, know for sure if Gaia is actually dead or not. Did she get a little warning from her father, maybe, that was like, hey, Gravik's gonna come after you, like, put some armor plates on, maybe? Do something, right? Maybe she's already a super Skrull. Maybe she has some powers that we're not aware of. So I still believe that she will be okay, but I think there's always the possibility there. And then just the fact also that Talos has kind of allowed Fury to like open up in a way that we don't see him around a lot of other people. Like, he acts very different around Talos than the personality that he presents to the rest of the world, is just kind of the hardened Nick Fury, shield director, that kind of person. But he's a lot more vulnerable, I would say, in this series than he has ever been.
I think that also just proves that he does, like, it's kind of sad if you think about it, but like, the Avengers aren't his friends. Like, they are his colleagues. Like, you can tell, like, even Maria, like, he doesn't even act like that around Maria, and Maria was one of the closest people in his life. Like, his wife and Talos and a few other Skrulls are the only people we've seen. And it's
weird. He's almost he's closer with Skrulls than he is with humans.
100%. 100%.
That's another reason that I'm leaning into the Skrull / LMD theory, because in the comics, like, Nick Fury is a big dick. You know what I mean? Like, he is not a nice person whatsoever. So the fact that we are getting this more emotional and softer side to him, like, lean into it, like foreshadowing another character. Another thing quickly is you get some Skrulls that like keep their name, and then others that like transition between their human name. I noticed that Nick Fury's wife is doing that. Like she's doing the transitioning as well, which threw me off for a minute, but it lends into her being able to adapt a lot more easily.
Yeah.
But I do have a question. And how far? I mean, obviously they said that we're going like very differently from the comics, but how far differently? Do you think they are eliminating scrollifying any superheroes, or we're going to get one or two? Like, what do you think they're going to do?
From what was said in episode 2 with Fury saying like, hey, I don't really want to call in the Avengers because I know what would happen if I do, then that would give the Skrulls an even more upper hand, being able to, you know, copy powers and stuff like that. I think the extent that we're going to go to is Gravik is trying to create the Super Skrulls, and we are going to get to that point. But do we call in maybe, say, like at least like Captain Marvel? Because obviously this is going to tie very closely into the Marvels, so maybe we call in Captain Marvel, maybe we call in Rambo as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, because that's going to tie, I would assume, just directly into that movie that's coming out in a few months from now at this point.
I think this would... I don't think we are. I don't think we're doing much with superheroes. And I do like that. I think the tone is much different than anything we've seen. I like that a lot. But like this would have been a perfect spot if you wanted to do the superhero route. This would have been your excuse to bring in your Daisy Johnson, your Hawkeye, your Mockingbird, I know Black Widow's gone now, but like, you know, those type of characters, even like a Kate Bishop that doesn't have powers to take. Like you could bring in those type characters. I guess even like your Rhodey's and your Iron Mans and stuff don't technically have powers. So
if we get non-Skrull Rhodey back, then we can, you know, get actual War Machine maybe by the
They
finale.
had said he doesn't suit up in the show, but I kind of hope he still does. Like I want to see him in the suit once.
Yeah.
But doesn't this also show, unless I'm super ignorant here, but doesn't this show that Nick Fury knows some about Skrulls but is ignorant to other things because of the fact that Gravik needs a machine surely shows that they can't copy powers?
Well, he's completely in the dark by this point, right? Like that's kind of the whole point is that this is the first time where he doesn't know what's happening, and that's scary to him, right?
But being with them for 30 years, having them under your payroll, having them one as your best friend, you'd think you'd ask in 30 years about how they're changing and their physiology works in some degree.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, that there's so much about just the inner workings of a Skrull that he is completely unaware of. He just thinks, oh, they can just turn into other people. Cool. But there's just a lot more to it than that, than we see on the surface.
It's interesting.
One of them. I'm sorry.
I was thinking,
yeah, that's true.
I wonder how deep she is. Like, I have a feeling that she was loyal, but he left, and maybe she didn't have a choice, and then she teamed up with Gravik. And then maybe this conversation, like the phone call she's trying to get with Gravik now, is like, "Hey, I'm out. He's back. I need to be loyal to him. I can't do this anymore. I can't lie to him." I think that's maybe where we're going.
Right.
Good, sorry.
Because it wouldn't make unless they're making that the gun to frame Nick Fury for Maria Hill. What gun do you think this is going to be? Because to have it in a safety deposit box is very random.
Yeah,
I think it's more so just symbolizing her kind of getting back into the fight, kind of just like going back with Gravik. It's like, all right, you've been activated basically at this point.
Do you think that would have also been easier to say with a safety deposit box in the room, like in the house that they've already filmed?
Sure,
that's true.
Sure,
that's
yeah.
True. But I think it may be just to show, like, you know, there's some extra steps that you have to take to kind of to get there. It's like you got to be all in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did kind of want to. We do have to move on just slightly here, but I actually was very curious about this question. Miata said, "Do you think they'll bring back a variant of Black Widow in Secret Wars or not?" I would not be. I think there's a reason they set up that other Black Widow in What If, right? They brought that one and they kind of had her in that other like Avengers timeline. I like when that happened. I was like, oh my gosh, are they putting her in like the MCU? And they didn't. But that's there if they want to. If they want to be like, all right, just throw her in the main timeline or something.
They gotta give Yelena a chance.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think she's gonna be our main widow for the time being.
Yeah. And I think that's my issue with Chris Evans and like Secret Wars is like I wouldn't mind him coming back in some way, but I think Sam needs an Avengers movie of his own to be like an Avenger, right? To lead that team. And if Cap is just there, I think that kind of defeats that a little bit.
I think he's coming back as Heat Vision.
Human Torch. Yeah.
That would
I'd love that.
I would love
that's
that.
That's my ideal
awesome.
version. Yeah.
Because I don't think he'll sting Anthony Mackie like that, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine
he understands what it means that he's passed that mantle.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think he's going to try and undercut him. I think if he agrees to come back, it will be in a tasteful way, for sure.
The only reason I would want Robert and Chris here, the only reason at all, is to get one shot where it's Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Chris Evans as Cap, Toby as Spider-Man, and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. It's just one shot. There's something about that does intrigue me. But besides that, I don't want them in here.
I do also want a Chris Evans Human Torch and Michael B. Jordan Human Torch.
That'd be really cool. That'd be really cool.
Fun.
The only good part of that movie.
That would be fun as well.
Alrighty, let's move on to our final topic here. This is a show I have been very excited for. It feels like it's been such a long time in the making. And that's My Adventures with Superman. It's been such a crazy ride, I think, because, I mean, this show was announced, probably 4 or 5 years ago at this point. It's a show that we weren't even sure if it was even still going to happen. There's a lot of things happening with, like, Warner Brothers, and we're like, okay, the Batman show was canceled, but is this show canceled? And it seems like it wasn't, but it moved over to Adult Swim, which is, in my opinion, a very weird spot for the show, if you've seen the show. So kind of right off the bat, how are we feeling with My Adventures with Superman?
I loved every single second of this. Like the animation style is fresh, and there's just this classic take on the early days of Superman, while still infusing like very new and interesting ideas and everything like that. But it just still, like I said, I tweeted out about this right after I saw the first episode. It still exudes that hopeful Superman energy with just like a perfect splash of camp thrown in there as well.
I loved it as well. I had such a blast with it. And, you know, I think it's a very interesting show to kind of jump into, especially coming off the edge of like Superman and Lois, coming off the edge of the Superman casting. And I don't know, I love the hype that kind of felt like it was going into the show. Like, I feel like normally your like animated projects don't kind of get the love that you normally would see in your live action stuff, your CW stuff, any of that kind of stuff. But it seems like there's just been such a genuine hype for this. And I love to see it because I think animation, I've said this so many times, I think this is the best medium to tell these stories. I think comic books like story, like this is just perfect for me. And I think this proved what they can do. And, you know, I'm very curious what your kind of thoughts are. Because again, we talked about, I'm not a huge anime guy. I don't know that, but there is such a strong anime presence here. Like this like Avatar type presence that you just feel in almost every aspect, from just how the characters look, how they act, how they move. And I think there is something kind of like really refreshing because they're able to do things here that you cannot do that we haven't seen Superman do before. Like they do so many new and interesting things. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's certainly like anime inspired, and I really like that. And it opens the door for a lot of unique visuals, like you said, that you don't normally get to see with the character of Superman, just because of the medium of animation that it's usually in. It's usually in that kind of like somewhat like comic looking, or like trying to be like a slightly realistic take on animation, but this is very much so. It's like it's very simple in a lot of ways, but still like a lot of attention is placed on the detail and just the intricate designs of different things as well.
It feels just like a comic book. Like it feels like you're reading a comic, and I think that's, again, so much fun to watch. I think the one thing I kind of, and I was trying to think, like, what is it that makes this so special, that kind of hooks you first thing? And I think what's really interesting is we start off the show, he's not Superman. And that was a shock to me, because I was like, oh, we're doing the origin again. but they do it in a way that is so unique. Like there's never been a Superman story quite like this. He starts out the show and he's this is kind of, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but it's kind of the opposite of Man of Steel, where he starts off as Clark Kent reporter first, and then he discovers, oh, I have more to me than I thought. I need to discover my powers, and I think, and he kind of knows about his powers, but like, the thought of being like this superhero hasn't really been his thing yet. And I think that's such an interesting take on it, because you really get to focus on who Clark Kent is at his core first before we dive into the Superman stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. I'm sorry. So I, unlike you, was not super duper excited about this coming, right? Then I saw the trailer, and then I was like, oh wow, this actually does look kind of fun. I'm gonna give this a go. And then obviously because our community at whole is going through it, so I was like, I'm being left out. I'm going through it, right? But for me, I only got to see episode 1. But for me, it kind of felt like The Boys Diabolical, Gotham Knights, and something else just thrown in a blender. I forgot what it was. Teen Titans Go. That's what it was, right? It feels like all 3 of those just chucked in a blender, because you got the stuff in the back, all of the Easter eggs from Teen Titans Go, that kind of stuff, and I love that. You like, because you got all the stuff in the front, but then you've also got jokes left, right, and center in the scenery. I'm down for that. The Gotham Knights part for me is because of, like you said, they're changing a lot of the lore, right? And that's one of the small things I have an issue with, right? Not to the point with Gotham Knights, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be sitting here, no, it's not like Batman. But one, like Superman's whole thing is absorbing radiation. That's how he gets his powers. Not an X-Men kind of moment of, boom, I need to save somebody. This is it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just inherent to who he is. And like, has to try and navigate being Clark Kent without trying to rip the doors off. Do you know what I mean? I'd love it if we got like some flash. We're not going to, but I half expected him when he was fighting, because he hadn't got Superman yet, to just be popping heads off. Do you know what I mean? He's still struggling to turn taps on and stuff. The esoteric stuff, don't crush this person's hand. Do you know what I mean? Like, he hasn't had the training from his either dad, it seems, at this point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then, like, to fully get Superman at the end, I was a little bit like, we should have been here before. I was confused the whole way through the fact that he was getting bruises from a robot, but it got explained by him kryptoning it out at the end.
I will say, I think episode 2, and obviously I haven't seen episode 2 yet, and that's fine. I think they definitely dived a lot more into this version of Superman and what's kind of going on, and why hasn't he learned all this stuff yet? Because I was also very confused in episode 1. I was like, oh, he's a lot, and I don't think this is a bad thing, but he is a lot more experienced at this point than I was expecting. But I kind of, just me personally, I kind of like that about it, because I think there are so many people who hate the Superman origin by now, and that's never an issue I've had personally. I'm still usually pretty fine seeing that again, but I think it's done in such a way that feels to me very fresh and very simple. Like, it's not the same Superman we keep seeing over and over. And Superman's a weird character to me, because I didn't love Man of Steel just because I was like, that's not my Superman. Especially when I was younger, I was very anti-Man of Steel, felt very different than the Superman I loved. And I feel like that I could see why that could be this for other people. I totally understand that. But I think what that does, I think, in my opinion, at least a little bit better than Man of Steel, is I think it kept the core of who Superman is. Like, who Superman, his morals, how he thinks, how he operates, I think is there episode 1. And I think some of the lore stuff, they're definitely changing it up a little bit. They're definitely doing something a little bit different with that. But I am personally just kind of very excited to see what changes are made. What maybe there's some that I'm like, maybe that doesn't work, but I think there's others that definitely does work for me.
I'm definitely going to be giving it a go as much as I can work without Max being tools. I will be giving it a go, because the animation itself is really fun. I love Lois Lane. The fact that she just does not care and just is in that story no matter what. I'm so down for that. Jimmy Olsen being an alien nerd.
That's
hilarious.
fun. Yeah.
I also love the Suicide Squad reference right at the start. Right? And then, like, because of where this Superman is in his journey, it kind of got me like, maybe this is like a gateway into giving a Superman legacy. Do you know what I mean? Because, like you said, it is very different to where we usually are in his journey. So it's kind of like a get ready, guys. This is kind of what you're going to be getting. So don't get too shocked and bummed out when you think different.
Yeah, I definitely understand some of the criticisms that have been presented about this show. Like it's starting off in a very different spot than we're used to with Superman. Like we're getting that Daily Planet aspect a lot earlier, I think, than we would normally get. We're kind of exploring this Superman year one from a different perspective than we would normally get. We have a Clark who is very much so almost seemingly afraid of his own powers right at the start, and I think that's really the big thing, is he was kind of afraid of his powers, afraid of where he came from, didn't really want to explore that, and because he didn't want to explore that, that's why he was having such trouble with controlling them, with breaking things, with just kind of being clumsy, and that kind of I actually kind of really like that aspect as well, just having him be like kind of like a goofy kind of like, I'm a normal man trying to live a normal life, but he's anything but that.
Yeah,
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, slightly getting into spoilers for the second episode. Like,
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we find out that like as a kid they are exploring his pod, which I thought the pod was really cool. Like it's like this like hologram mental thing that like takes Clark in. But they were so afraid of it, and the parents almost got hurt trying to explore it. And they're like, no, we're not touching this again. We're not even going to go near it again. So he doesn't know. Like Clark goes throughout the rest of his life not knowing his origins or his father or any of this stuff. And I thought that's such an interesting new approach to take it. Like
I didn't ask about Jor-El for sure.
Yeah, no, I thought that was so fun. I also want to say I like that both of the Kent parents are alive. I know that might be a weird
great.
thing.
That's great.
It's definitely very small, but like I assume maybe we'll kill off one of them at some point. Like maybe we'll do the death of John Kent, and I'm fine with that. But I like, just like Smallville, we got like we got like 5 seasons worth of John Kent over on Smallville, and I love that. He's one of my favorite versions of the character. And I also think the parents are just charming. Like the mother is very like laid back and be like, no, we shouldn't do this. Let's stay in our comfort zone. And John Kent's like, yeah, I don't care. I'm getting out of here. This is scary. See ya.
I definitely.
The reason I had such an issue is because, like you said, we're drifting away. But what I'm used to is the Kents being absolute rocks. Do you know what I mean? So if they're like normal humans, like I have no clue. I am here as just as much as you are learning all of this. That, like what Taz was saying, I'm really kind of enjoying the idea a lot more. And then that leads us to, like, if he hasn't had any Fortress, he hasn't had any of Jor-El or anything like that, then we could be getting it all with this series, which would be really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, drop the Gotham Knights. I've changed my mind. I'm not a part of it.
I'll change your mind on Gotham Knights as well. Just give me a few minutes. I don't since you haven't seen episode 2, I don't want to go too deep into spoilers on that, but all I will say is in episode 2 he finally kind of like realizes his potential, and once we get that scene of kind of fully understanding what it means to be Superman and getting that suit up and stuff for the first time. I won't go into detail about that, but that whole sequence was really kind of like maybe my favorite scene from both episodes, just how that all kind of came together.
Did he get it from his mum?
Kind of. Kind of. And that aspect
yes and no.
I loved. I loved what they did. I loved what they did with it.
I
absolutely
so
loved it.
I do want, we are very much running out of time here, so I do kind of want to read some of these comments because I like answering your guys' comments, even though limited time tonight. So Trackopedia, and I swear I did not mean to ignore your comments all night. Most of them were about the show, and I kind of wanted to save them till the end. And they said there should always be a live action Superman show, one animated show, one live action. Now, hopefully the Smallville animated series is next, like it was planned. I would love that. I would love if that could happen. That's been in talks and works for like what feels like forever. But I hope once James Gunn gets things settled, I know him and Rosenbaum are great friends. I could see a world where that happens. I hope that still happens. I hope their podcast gets the show back to a place where everyone's talking about it again.
I mean, they got their comics though, didn't they? That's the only issue.
They got season 11. Yeah, they got the season 11 comics, and I assume this would take place. It would probably be another big time jump and all that jazz. They also said, when do you think they'll bring in Lex Luthor? So they said he's not in season 1, which personally I am for, especially with the Superman being so young. I'm definitely okay if he doesn't appear till season maybe 2 or end of 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, I mean, the way that they're setting this season up does not leave room for Lex to be in there really at all. Like there is a set villain or group of villains that they're leading towards right now, and I think that that's going to be great for the first season. But we already know that it was ordered for a second season. I think it was picked up for 2 seasons when it was first picked up, and we know, I believe you replied to a tweet earlier today, that the voice actor for Superman has already recorded lines, I believe, for season 2 at this point as well. So they're going all in on this, and I think, you know, maybe having Lex be the big centerpiece of season 2 would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm actually very curious because it seems like the bar is going to be high because I think the main villain seems to be Brainiac. Like, we know there's an actor playing Brainiac this season, so I like, though, that's very high bar for a first season. Maybe it carries into season 2. It seems like Bruno Mannheim might be an element here with the robots, and I don't know how much you want us to. Yeah, the ending.
Task Force X a little bit.
Yeah, Amanda Waller and maybe a Slade Wilson.
The like the tease and then the change that we got with Wale Parks and stuff. Do you think this could be their chance to give us a Black Lex Luthor? Because I'm super down.
That would be cool. I mean, they've changed things quite a bit. I obviously with Perry, with
Jimmy,
with Jimmy as well. So I mean, I'm all for it. Like, go ahead.
I know we had a black actor play Lex in like the Harley Quinn show, with our good boy Gus Fring. But
yes.
Yeah, no, I you know, as I'm kind of wrapping some of the stuff up, I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was a lot of fun. Hopefully next week we can dive more into some of the nitty gritty stuff here. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with the show, man. I was actually shocked how instantly I kind of fell in love with everything, because it does just feel like the show has such a love for Superman and these characters. I loved Lois here. I thought she was just a ball of sunshine. I liked Jimmy as well, but I think I'm excited for him to get more for just him, because it felt like everything in these first 2 was kind of like him trying to get Lois and Clark together and him just fanning over the aliens and stuff.
I did also love the end credits where it's just Jimmy walking and all the pictures are just pictures that he's taken from throughout the episode, which are just
great. That's fine. I don't think I noticed that.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So with that all being said, I think this is kind of where we're gonna wrap up the stream. Before that, I do want to announce a new segment on these streams going forward. This is an old thing I used to do on the channel a lot, but I want to bring it on to the pipeline each week. Each week, I will ask you guys a question. It's our question of the week segment. I used to just make them into videos. Each week, I will ask you guys a question, and then over on social media, you guys can send in your questions. We'll answer them live. So for our first ever question, or on the podcast, I asked you, since we're about halfway through the year now, which is insane. We've had a lot of great stuff. I asked you, what is your most anticipated project for the rest of 2023? Movies, TV shows, game, books, etc., whatever. Ooh. Tell me. I will be posting this over on Twitter, over on my Instagram, which I recently created, probably my threads, probably here on the channel, and I'll gather them all up, and we'll talk about it. We will talk about your guys' answer for a good 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the stream, which I'm very excited to bring this back. This was always one of my favorite shows. I always thought it was a lot of fun. So with all that being said, you guys, I want to give a massive thank you to Taz for being here, for Darth Bunyan for being here. Before we go, do you guys have anything you want to promote before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, this past week has been pretty busy. I was able to get my big breakdowns up for both the Gotham Knights finale and the Superman and Lois finale, and then I will be working on my video for the premiere, the 2-part premiere of My Adventures as Superman, and that should be up at some point in the next week or so.
Sounds amazing. Thank you. And Darth, do you have any projects that you want to promote? I know you have like a Twitch. Do you want to shout that out?
No, just I'm doing more stuff on TikTok at the moment. So just check out Darth Bunyan on TikTok.
Absolutely, man. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. But yeah, without further ado, I will see you guys on the flip side. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.